Hi, everyone. So I am super excited to be on this call here with someone very special who I got connected with because he was one of my listeners in the College to Calling Summit. And he shared with me a little bit about his story. And I'm really excited to dive into that because it will really resonates with me and I believe it will resonate with a lot of our listeners out there who's looking to really dive their feet into the internet world, doing like online marketing, building businesses online, and live that freedom lifestyle. So, Brennan, welcome so much to this call. We were talking before we hit the record button, and I'm dying to ask you all these questions. And this is such a wonderful way to start off 2020 because I know this conversation is about to really light up so much, inspirations and possibilities in the minds of people who are listening to this. So, are you ready?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Nico, for allowing me to have this chat with you. Yeah, I'm super pumped. And yeah, definitely one of probably my favorite parts of my own journey is how I feel like it can resonate with a lot of people and give them just a different perspective and some hope of what's possible. And so I'm pumped for the opportunity to maybe inspire even just one person that could hear about my own journey.
Awesome. Yes. So let's jump in. I really want to ask you this. So our listeners don't know where you're calling in from right now, but can you tell us where are you at right now, specifically where you're living? Have you always lived there before?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm calling from Australia. My wife and I moved here about 18 months ago. We live on the west part of the country in a small beach town called Fremantle. Well, it's technically a port city. And it's near the Australian city Perth, which is a bigger landmark for a lot of people. But we live in this small little town and are about 5 minutes to three different beaches. I'm about a stone's throw to about five different cafes. And so
Wow.
I just get to really enjoy a lot of pretty awesome things in my day to day as part of life. And
That
sorry,
is,
so you,
yeah,
hey?
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, no, I'm actually from Southern Virginia, super small town. Um, I am definitely a black sheep. Not many people have done what I'm doing in my family, let alone in the town I grew up in. But it was quite a journey to get here, but it's been awesome, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
That is so exciting. Like you are living the life that I feel like so many people, especially young people, look up to, and we want to
Hmm.
live that lifestyle. So why don't you tell us how exactly did this happen? And I know you've been traveling, you and your wife been traveling for 13 months before
Hmm.
making this move to Australia, from a small town to this amazing new country and really just getting to explore new culture. So how did you do it?
Yeah, certainly. So, well, after we graduated university, we had planned on going and getting our master's because that's kind of what you do to excel in the States. But in the meantime, we had to get jobs to kind of save up, pay for our wedding and some other things, and so we both ended up in call center jobs, working for our old university, and it's one of the least favorite experiences of my life. Good memories of life around that time, but definitely did not enjoy my job. And then I think as we were in those jobs, just kind of getting settled in life, we realized that we had grown and changed as individuals. Frequently, I think there's this idea that you kind of have to decide when you're 12 what you're going to be when you grow up. But that's not
Yeah.
really accurate because you don't know who you're going to be when you're in your 20s. You're
Mhm.
changing maybe every 6 months, let alone every year or two. And so um, we kind of woke up one day and realized, oh, we don't really want our masters right now. We want to go and do something else. We want to go live in a different place. So we started looking for jobs, but we weren't standout candidates. We just had a bachelor's. I had two degrees, but they're pretty standard, just bachelor's. And my wife has a degree in psychology. as you know, there's not heaps of jobs for people that just have a bachelor's in psychology. And they're certainly not the highest paying roles.
Yeah.
And so after I went on an interview in a university that was outside of Chicago, just that had a similar role as mine, because at least we figured, hey, maybe same job at different place. So that'd be cool. Wasn't a right fit. And then I think one night we were just like, forget it, we're just going to make something happen. And so that's when I just Googled how to make money online, because I figured I'm sitting in a call center for 40 hours a week. Worst thing that can happen is I sit at my desk for 40 hours a week and can be anywhere in the world. I was like, that's my worst case scenario. And so all of a sudden my mind was like blown as I just found out about all these different ways to make money online. And within a week, I had decided that I was going to pursue copywriting, set up a profile on Upwork, and then had landed like my first small paying gig, essentially.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so, I relate to that story so much because, as we mentioned before that, off camera, is like, I also got my degree in psychology, my BA, and that really doesn't give us that many options. And I know you even have 2 bachelors, right? In communication, and what's the other one?
In Spanish.
In Spanish. Okay. I mean, those are really amazing skill sets to have, but even then, like, the options are so limited. So, and my journey also started when I wanted to learn how to make money online because I know
that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, like I know that I wanted that freedom lifestyle. Like, I knew I didn't want to stay at a 9-to-5 job for 40, 50, 60 years of my life only to enjoy life when I'm old and retired. I knew that wasn't for me. So like, how did you even stumble upon copywriting? Because like, I didn't even know what copywriting is until like really late towards like, maybe a year or a year or and a half into my journey. So like, how did you find copywriting?
Yeah, certainly. So to be honest, I don't even know the first time I saw it. I just was reading a bunch of blogs and articles online about making money online. I'm pretty sure it was a freelancer who had built out a pretty successful career teaching people how to use Upwork. And I think he's the one that first technically introduced me to copywriting. But I think I was more alarmed that I had a 4-year university degree and had never heard about copywriting as a communications major. And so I remember when I got my first gig, and I was like, how did I not know about this? I know my specialization might not have been the most relevant to copywriting per se, but I still was in the communications department. I still had general classes. It's like, how did no one in university tell me about this whole world that exists?
Wait, so they never mentioned it, not even once?
No.
Oh, wow.
No, like, so I never even knew that it existed.
Okay, wait, before we keep going, I feel like some of our listeners might not know what exactly copywriting is. So do you mind if you can share a little bit?
I'd be happy to. It's hard for me to describe it because it's so broad and specific at the same time. But essentially, copy is anything of the print word that we see, actually, or the spoken word, but anything that is in advertisements. It can be used in videos. It is essentially like the movie script, but for everything else in life, kind of. And so there are writers, marketers that come together and they either write the words for ads, they write the words for emails, they write the words for any of the videos that you might see around, whether on TV or on the internet. They write blog articles, that was probably the one that was craziest to me, is most famous people aren't writing their own stuff. or experts, they're typically hiring someone else to write that. So made me doubt a lot of the validity of things I saw
I
on the
didn't know
internet.
that.
But
Wow.
yeah, so it's very, if it's the written or spoken word that is the purpose of advertising, essentially, then it's done by a copywriter.
Got it. Okay, so it's more
Mhm.
like, words that are used to influence people into thinking a certain way or like to make purchases, something
Yeah,
like that.
so there within copywriting, there's kind of two different main types, one of which is what you're talking about. So that's more direct response,
Mm.
where you're trying to influence someone and encourage them to make a purchase. And then there's like content writing, which can just be informative, and it's similar. The goal is building rapport, but it's not actually a blatant sales pitch.
Okay,
But
that
so
makes sense.
like say you Google how to be a copywriter.
Mhm.
I know on the West Coast, one of my mentors has like one of the top ranking articles. He's a copywriter. It's a long form article on how to be a copywriter. There's no sales involved. It's legitimately just information.
Mhm.
Same saying it's that he is kind of the the other side of the coin, I guess, to the copywriter.
Okay, that makes sense. And
Mhm.
knowing what that means now, like there's definitely a huge potential and opportunities in this space because more and more people now are really tapping their hands into internet businesses.
Yeah.
Anyone can
Hmm.
start a business online now, but this skills like copywriting as an essential skill set as being an entrepreneur, because you have to influence people.
Hmm.
So tell us like how exactly do you use this skill set, this business to implement and create this freedom lifestyle that you have now that you can be anywhere on this planet and still be, making money?
Yeah, certainly. Cool. So after like I mentioned, after I kind of found out about this whole world, I realized that there's just essentially an endless pool of opportunity for
Mhm.
getting gigs as a copywriter, because just so many people, like you said, that are business owners or even just social media people. It's like developing product descriptions. So there's just like there's so many different things that happen because so much of what's on the internet is either written or somebody's recording some sort of script, basically, that there's a bajillion opportunities, I guess, for copywriters. The big thing is the barrier to entry isn't that challenging because there are so many opportunities.
Mhm.
The bigger challenge comes when you're trying to scale and grow within the industry. But I can chat about that a bit later. So essentially what we did when I started getting a few gigs on the side, and I wasn't making that much money, but my goal was, can I replace my current call center job
Mhm.
not working in a call center and not being chained to my desk, but only
Mhm.
have to work from my laptop.
Mhm.
And so with that, I had some really good initial success and was essentially matching my income within the first month.
Wow.
So that was really awesome. And then basically, I had a chat with my wife and I was like, look, I think this is going to go somewhere. We're really fed up of being here.
Mhm.
I know this thing called house sitting, which is basically where you take care of people's pets while they're away on holidays. You
Mhm.
get free accommodation. They just need someone to take care of their home. And I was like, let's just move, sell all of our stuff, and let's just house sit
Okay,
indefinitely.
Brandon, I'm gonna
And
cut you off really
yeah,
quickly
yeah, okay.
because because our minds are just in sync right now. We didn't talk about this
Yeah,
off
okay.
camera, but literally last night I was looking up house sitting and pet
Yeah.
sitting, and there are so many opportunities, and
Yeah.
And if you love animals, like this is like an amazing way to just travel for free. Do you get paid for those opportunities? I wasn't sure.
You can.
Okay.
Typically those are a bit more, I think they're a bit more competitive, but I know they usually have higher expectations for the people.
Yeah.
And so, and you're kind of a bit more limited. If you're trying to get housing, you're limited to only being able to apply for the ones that have those that are paying, and they're not typically in cool places. It's mostly the people that live like 2 hours off from the city in a farm,
Okay,
because they
got it.
legitimately just can't get anyone. Not
Right.
always, but
Yeah.
what we could tell a few years ago, at least, that's tend to be the case. And since I was trying to grow an online income anyways, we tried to pick the house that's based off of proximity to places we would want to be and how long they were.
Okay, so back to your story. So did you decide to do that like after the first month of matching your income at your job?
Yeah, so
Wow.
I got my first gig, I reckon the like end of July, 1st of August. And within that month I was matching I was matching my hourly rate. I wasn't working obviously quite as much because I still had my other full-time job. And we had a chat like the first week of September, and we decided so we decided sometime within the first 2 or 3 weeks of September, and we set a move out date of December 1st. So we decided in September that we were going to leave our home, our like university town where we'd been for a while, and we were going to travel starting on December 1. And that's what we did. We like sold about 70% of our things, and we stored the remaining things at both of our parents, who also live in different parts of Virginia. And then we went and spent a couple weeks or 3 weeks, I reckon, between both families, and then flew out on December 14th, I think. And didn't look back, kind of, I guess.
Brennan, I just have to say that is super brave. And a lot of
Thanks,
people, you know, they wait and they think and they plan and they think like, how am I going to make this happen? But one thing I noticed with you, and that's a lot of what successful people do, is they make the decision first and then they figure out the how to along the way. But until we make that committed decision, the how to doesn't matter. So I noticed that in your story, like you and your wife decided, okay, this is what we are going to do. We don't see the how right now, but it's going to happen. So, and you guys made it happen. So were you guys, is that how you travel in the 13 months prior to moving to Australia?
Yeah, so we did about, I don't know, we did about 10-ish months, I reckon, the first time. And so we went to another cool thing. We like leveraged credit card miles. So when we left, we paid $100 each to fly from New York to Bangkok, Thailand, through credit card miles that we had signed up for, like bonuses, and used that. So that was really cool. $200 for us to fly out to Thailand. So we were there for about 9 days. And then we came down to Australia for 3 months for the full duration of like a tourist visa, visited all around, and then made our way over to Europe for 5 months, I think. And then we went back to the US and then traveled. We had some different weddings, and there was family of Amber's that I'd never met. So we like went out to like Seattle and everything. So I visited the West Coast basically for the first time in my life.
That is so amazing. So like this whole time, you were making decent income from copywriting?
So I was, the first year, to be honest, was not the smoothest. I'm not the most proud of that year because I legitimately didn't know what I was doing. And so I was traveling. So like, I didn't make a lot of money that first year, but we made a lot of our decisions in light of that, and learned a lot of pretty crazy, awesome things about people. So basically, when we were traveling for that 10 months, we paid for 1 month of accommodation that whole time that we were traveling.
Wow.
And we only did that basically by choice because we were like, no, we want to go to the city for 5 days or whatever, not because we had to. So we just, we learned a lot about kind of how awesome people are around the world and how kind they are and how willing they are to like come along someone. But basically, not only was that just a great year for, traveling, but it was also kind of the formational year for my business as well, that I see it as kind of, I might never have stuck with freelancing if I hadn't have been in a place where I had to do it. So like, to be honest, if we had just moved to a different city in the US, I probably would have thrown in the towel and probably would have gotten a job. But then all of a sudden, come October that year, I found kind of my niche and all of a sudden went up to like, $6,000+ a month working freelance. So like I kind of like, I didn't make a lot of money in the beginning, but then I visited 15 countries and kept our expenses really low. So, and then it kind of all really paid off, I guess, there at the end.
Oh, I love that so much because like I see what you guys did there, right? Like even though at the beginning the money wasn't there, but you and your wife were traveling and you were growing yourself as people with experiences, and that really just make you guys more valuable. You have more insights, and so can you tell us more on like exactly what happened, the turning point when you identify like this is the niche that I want to work with? Like how did that come about for you?
Yeah, certainly. So, well, it kind of started early on because in the beginning of that year, I got brought on with an email marketing agency as a copywriter.
Yeah.
And it was just like a newer agency. So they had kind of a lot of need within the team to handle different things. So I just basically made myself useful, I guess, and learned a lot of the ins and outs outside of just being a copywriter for email marketing. And I was with that agency for a while. I honestly, there was a lot of potential, but it wasn't there were some other things that made it not a good fit. And so, as you know, like I left my old job because it wasn't good. So I wasn't going to trade being in an environment that wasn't good just to be remote. That was kind of one of the things that I had also determined that I wouldn't, if I'm going to work for myself, then I'll do a lot of things, but I'm not going to put myself in like an unhealthy work relationship.
I think that's like a common trait for entrepreneurs because that's me too. If I find myself at a position that I don't feel in alignment with, I'm just going to leave. It doesn't matter what the pay is but we just follow our intuition, our heart. So I get what you mean. Okay, so after you quit that job.
Yeah, so that was in the middle of the middle of the year, so June-ish. And then I hadn't really been present in looking for jobs because I had a pretty good situation there. And so I lost some of my momentum, I guess I could say, as far as within getting new gigs since I had stepped away from that. But I was just trying to get copywriting gigs. And like I said, there's pretty higher competition once you try and scale your rates up a little bit. So I think it took about 4 or 6 weeks where I was just not really having much luck. And then I was like, well, I actually know email. Let me give that a go. And so I just typed in email marketing jobs into the freelance platform and a bajillion of them came up. And so, yeah, like I said, so that was in July maybe. And by September, I had already started lining up good gigs. And then by the time October rolled around, like I said, I was at 4 clients doing about 35 hours a week, I guess, 35 hours a week for them. And then, doing like yeah, I was making in between $5,000 or $6,000, I guess, a month for that. So for a kid
Right.
that was working in a call center,
Yeah.
that was crazy. That was like, oh my goodness.
And you get to be remote, right? Anywhere
Yeah.
in the
Yeah. And I
world.
was remote
Wow.
doing that. Yeah.
Wow. And you get to set your own schedule.
hmm Yeah.
That's
So, and
amazing.
I was pretty good for the most part. Like a big thing that has also been a guide or like something that's determined a bit of my career is
Mm-hmm.
trying to be intentional to not let it affect other parts of my life
Mm-hmm.
too much
Mm-hmm.
apart from here and there. Cause, I don't want to I'm very happily married. I don't want to like mess that up
Yeah.
over chasing business opportunities. I don't want to miss out on relationships. We are also people of faith, so we're pretty involved in a local church. And like, I didn't want to compromise, I guess, a lot of these types of things that I would consider other versions of success,
Mm-hmm.
or other parts that are essential to life. So I've tried really hard to keep it a bit more maintained, I guess, than maybe some entrepreneurs have, I guess. I haven't grown as fast, but I would say my work-life balance has been good the whole time.
Mhm. And
So,
it's important, right? The more
mhm,
happier you are outside of work, that makes you be more productive and you can show
mhm.
up as a better like copywriter when you're actually at
Yeah.
work. So I want to ask you this question. When you first decided to go into copywriting, and some of our
Mhm.
listeners listening right now may be really excited, they also want to do the same thing, but how do we even get started? Did you teach yourself? Did you Google on YouTube how to be a copywriter? How did you learn the skill set?
Yeah, so I did just Google and read a ton of articles and blogs. Like there's so much content out there. Um, and like, yeah, like I said, one of my mentors, his name's Jacob McMillan. He just released
Mm-hmm.
a how to be a copywriter guide as a free blog post. And it's like so inclusive. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the the cool thing is that because so much of copywriting is similar to storytelling, everyone has the ability to do it because that's what we do in life in general. We tell stories. I'm telling you my story, you're telling me your story. We're trying to be conscientious of people that may be listening and
Mm-hmm.
adapting to kind of fit or encourage those people specifically. And so those are more the kind of essential traits to being a good copywriter. And since everyone's been doing that most of their life anyways, there's a lot of potential, at least in the early, to at least start making some money and get your feet wet and figure out if that's a good fit or what would be a good fit for you. And I just signed up for the freelance platform Upwork like a few years ago when I started out. And so I can't tell you that you'll make $1 bajillion off of that, but I was, after the first year freelancing, I was set to, yeah, I was doing quite well. I worked about 25 hours a week. We traveled again when we were moving to Australia, and I was paying all our bills and some. So, that's like, yeah, sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I want to ask you though, like how did you land clients at the beginning? Like did you have to show them like proof that you can do this, or like how did you first like get those couple of clients at the beginning?
Yeah, okay, cool. So, the first gig that I ever got was to write a website,
Mm-hmm.
like the homepage, about page, services page for a concrete company in Ohio, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
And it was like $50 that they paid me, which seems ridiculous to me now. But at that point in my life, I was making like $10 an hour. So I'm like, oh my
Mm.
goodness, like $50. Like if I can do this in 5 hours, I will make the same amount of money.
Oh my goodness.
And um, so I didn't even attach any samples, I don't
Uh-huh.
think, to that
Wow.
proposal. I do have a degree in communication, so that
Mm-hmm.
did probably lend me some credibility in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, starting out, maybe. But because I was so clueless, I guess, I just took kind of whatever I could get.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, there's a really low barrier to entry on like the small cost products. I mean, small cost gigs. So you can probably within 24 hours get whenever you get a profile set up, you can probably get some sort of small paying copywriting gig.
Huh. That's good
Um,
to know.
yeah, it's a great way, and that's for me kind of what I encourage people to do when I talk to them about this, just
Mm-hmm.
because being an entrepreneur, freelancer, or whatever you decide to do specifically, like it's just as much of its own journey as kind of life is. So
Mm-hmm.
like you, odds are you're not going to stick with what you started out,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing that you start out with may be what gets you to the next level. So then you can pursue other opportunities.
Right, right.
So like go ahead and cast your net wide and see
Mm-hmm.
kind of what comes up. And then as you maybe have some successes and get some more experience and understand, that can give you the insight to be able to like to narrow down your focus and
Mm-hmm.
then target what you're actually going to go after. And then that's kind of more where your earning potential comes in, like your good
Yeah.
earning potential. But a lot of people that I kind of see in the online space just like blanket market themselves and haven't specialized, and then try and command like what I would say high rates for what they're offering.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, they're like, that's just, you're better off like throwing a coin into a well and a wishing well and like hoping a job pops up when you do that. Like be
Yeah.
broad and generic for a low price, get some experience, find out kind of where your skills are and what you enjoy doing. Or if you just want to make money, then get into email marketing or something that where you can, like there are ways to do that. But and then as you kind of get some guidance and experience, you can leverage that to get better jobs. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this is really important to point out, Brandon, is like for people listening, like they get so excited, they see that the
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle that you have created now for yourself, but a lot of times we forgot like the journey that got you
Yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just like overnight success, right? I mean, it really begins with that decision. Like I don't
Yeah.
know who's listening right now. They may be stuck at a job they also don't like,
Mm-hmm.
but you just have to decide like this is what I'm going to do no matter what. And then
Yeah,
like you
exactly.
mentioned earlier, just kind of letting the path unfold in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Along the way you learn things about yourself, and you just kind of get more clarity on exactly like what specific like niche you want to work with. So I think it's really important to get that perspective and know it just doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen like tomorrow after
Yeah,
we set up an
exactly.
account. Yeah, so let's talk about like the not so shiny part of this journey, right? Like it's amazing, you get to
Yeah.
travel, you get to move to Australia,
Mm-hmm.
but I have no doubt that there were times when you were questioning your decision. You may feel like, is this really going to work? Were you
Mm-hmm.
ever, um, found yourself in a position where you feel like maybe I should go back to a job, or I'm not making enough money? How did you
Mm-hmm.
overcome those challenges?
Yeah, certainly. Well, like I said, kind of the first year, not the first
Mhm.
year, well, yeah, I guess technically the first year itself when we were traveling, like
Yeah.
it was pretty stressful to some degree because
Mhm.
money was so tight. I
Mhm.
just wasn't making what I had hoped or anticipated. As a newbie freelancer, the Christmas season can be pretty devastating because a lot of people stop hiring right around that
Oh.
time. And then I didn't have the portfolio to really compete, I guess,
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
that time. So yeah, the first year I made less money than I did in my call center job freelancing.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, but I also was traveling and didn't have housing expenses for 10
Mhm.
months.
Mhm.
So at the same time, it like kind of all bounces out a little bit. But as
Yeah.
far as like, and I look back and I probably could have pursued some things maybe a bit harder, but there
Hmm.
was a lot of, I was just taking it a day at a time. Honestly, I didn't have a longevity plan. We were just so excited to like be out
Hmm.
of, be out of like our old town and not working our other jobs, you know? And
Hmm.
so I think one of the things that I would recommend to other people and that I wish I would have done earlier is get connected with people that are in that space kind of as early as possible,
Hmm.
not to try and leverage that in any way, but only so you can try and glean from them. Most people are happy to pass on a word or two.
Hmm.
And when I get contacted by aspiring freelancers, like I just lay out my whole journey, like very frankly for them, because I'm not trying to trick them, you know, and there is an inherent tenacity that you have to have. Or I just read a quote, it was on LinkedIn. I don't know who posted it, but it was like the trick to being an entrepreneur is you have to have like unrelenting optimism. And so
Hmm.
every day you have to wake up and believe that the best things
Yeah.
can happen,
Yeah.
regardless of what happened yesterday, even if it was a
Hmm.
great thing or a bad thing. And
Hmm.
like you do have to have that. And that's kind of what I'd say that's what you trade a lot more, is leaving kind of maybe a traditional workplace, is you take on a lot of extra burden with making with that you didn't consider before. And
Hmm.
so I think a lot of people see, oh man, the freelancer life, you know, the entrepreneur life, I can make big money and not really work. That seems awesome. And I'm like, actually, you get anxiety when you don't know what you're having for dinner.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
don't know if this is actually a good life choice for you, because although you can get to the place where you will be stable, um, the true like successful freelancer entrepreneur, like they don't actually worry about losing their job because they've created their job. So that's kind of like a bit of a lie or a myth, I guess, that people worry about on the front end. But until you get to that level, um, you're going to worry about a lot of things. And the truth of the matter
Hmm.
is, there is a very small percentage of people that log in and land a great gig from the beginning.
Hmm.
And you will see them, and they're probably going to try and market themselves as a great person and sell you things and make you doubt your own journey.
Hmm.
Like, that's not the norm. That's the 1% type of thing. But as in life, everybody has a different experience. And so you can't necessarily assume that another person's experience will be yours, but rather you can use that to kind of inform you as you move forward in your own journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, that first year I was just in general like a growing, mind-blowing year. But like I said, like small town kid, I didn't even know any of this type of thing was possible. So I was just having my mind blown like again and again and again, you know? And so,
Yeah,
yeah.
I heard that like someone mentioned before that entrepreneurship is like the best personal development
Mm-hmm.
opportunity you can ever get into. And like you said, at the beginning, it's gonna be tough when you're
Mm-hmm.
really creating nothing. I mean, creating something from nothing,
That's
literally.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so but to me, like at least that's my mindset. It's like it's totally worth it to spend like
Mm-hmm.
maybe 3 to 5 years of my life being, broke, struggling, lost, but to
Mm-hmm.
create the rest of my life the way that I want it, like that's
Mm-hmm.
totally worth it in my
Yeah,
opinion. So Brandon,
exactly.
like how many years did it take you personally on your journey to get to the point where you're like making decent money and you're not struggling anymore? How long did it take
Oh
you?
yeah, certainly. Oh, it was within a year, or a year, I guess. But the thing is
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even say a year because I was only doing it part time. So less than a
Oh,
year full time
wow. Mm-hmm.
freelance, and then yeah, I was like still growing. I was doing quite comfortably, and then um, I guess it was the end of, so within 2 years total, I had set myself up to have like a 6-figure income remote. And so it was also at that time when I had, been figuring out that I kind of had a bit of a self-evaluation time and figuring out like, okay, I'm here. I know I can do this. I've grown. I'm a different person. What's the best like long-term plan for me? We had already moved to Australia, so we had funded we'd already traveled again in Europe for a couple months or whatever, so like we kind of had checked off a lot of the bigger things that we had wanted to do. And so I decided to like do a bit more introspecting, I guess, and develop out the business for the long term.
Yeah, that you read my mind again. I wanted to ask you, what's your vision now for where you're headed in business, in life? Like, what's the next step for you?
Yeah, certainly. Okay. So, well, I've decided through a long, arduous process. I also encourage people to get mentors as soon as they can along the process, because that just takes out a lot of the guesswork. That I'm stepping away from kind of the technical side of email marketing and just honing in on the writing side, the skills that I developed in doing that, and going full in as a direct response copywriter. So kind of what we chatted about in the beginning, the people that try and influence or persuade people's actions. I'm going to go all in with that. And the cool thing is I still get to keep a lot of email work, because a lot of direct response copywriters write regular emails for people. So that was kind of a little bit of where I found my passion and some of my experience lined up to catapult me, I guess, in a new direction.
Yeah.
And so I officially made that kind of conscious switch about 2 months ago. And so I maintained some of my regular stuff, my regular work, and then started pursuing new opportunities. And so I have a few, it's pretty cool. I have a few potentials already lined up that I'll be having calls in the next week with. So that's awesome.
Nice. Congratulations. That's a really exciting shift. Like, and especially doing something that, you're more in alignment with. I think that's just going to take your business to the next level, like financially and everything. So just a couple of questions to wrap this up.
Yeah.
And I want to, this is a personal question I want to ask you. Like, how exactly have you and your wife been able to move to Australia and live there? Like, do you guys get a visa? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, certainly. Okay. So we are on a visa through my wife, actually. So she has a degree in psychology, and because of the social healthcare system here, there's a really high demand for counselors with a psychology degree. And so I'd say relatively easily, she was able to get a job, and then they worked out something for a sponsorship about 6 months into the agreement. So sorry, I have a tickle in my throat.
It's okay.
Just a second. Yeah. So, but not a lot of countries, but Australia is one of the countries that has like a 1-year working holiday visa as well. So if you're from it's a pretty big list of countries, they'll let you come for a year and get you can have work rights and everything. And so we did that. And then that's when she found her job within that. And we've been, kind of living it up ever since. It's pretty ideal, because in the same way that I, like as an entrepreneur, I guess, or pursuing my dreams, we were also pretty conscious to look for ways in which my wife could better herself within her field as well, because she isn't necessarily an aspiring entrepreneur, but she loves helping people. And so, one of the big reasons we came to Australia is because there was that opportunity for her to excel in her career.
Got it. Wow. And I love how the universe just worked things out perfectly
Mm-hmm.
for you guys, for everybody when we make the intention to do something. So that's exciting. I cannot wait to continue to follow you guys' journey, and just,
Mm-hmm.
you guys serve as an inspiration for people like me and so many people out there, especially young people. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like we are really starting to wake up to the idea that we don't need to be
Yeah.
in a job in order to build, success, wealth
Mm-hmm.
in that way. So continue what you're doing, Brandon. And,
Oh
and I
yeah,
just
thank you.
want to
Yeah.
say, like, thank you for your time
Oh
to
yeah,
come
of
on
course.
here and share a little bit about your story, because that
Mm-hmm.
needs to be heard by more people so they can, also have their mind expanded with different
Yeah.
possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So last question to
Okay.
wrap this up. If
Uh-huh.
there are people still listening right now and they may be like, on the edge of like making that leap, they may be thinking like, oh, I don't know how to do this. I'm scared. Is it going to work? Like all these doubts just coming up in their minds. Like, what would you
Mm-hmm.
say to these people to just like go for it?
Yeah, to encourage them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Um, I guess I could tell a quick story of for myself is
Sure.
that um, I had just gotten my second job and I was
Mm-hmm.
in way visiting my family. And I think I had just finished telling them about like the second job that I had gotten online.
Yeah.
And it was in that moment that I was like, wait a second, is this how I'm going to make a future for myself? Like, have I just found it? And I was like, I think it is. And I just had like that inner dialogue with myself.
Yeah.
And that moment has like stood out for me my whole journey, like that one realization. So
Mm-hmm.
that was really cool for me personally. The big thing that I would say for other people that are considering it is you literally have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. And so um, don't let other people's successes or ideals define your own journey. And there's nothing wrong with trying it and realizing that it's not a good fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've just grown as a person and you've just gotten more insight that's going to make you more valuable as an employee down the line, that's going to make you a better partner, a better person in general. So I think if you choose to look at this as more than just a career, but as like an actual personal development journey, you can take away a bit of the weight of succeeding, like monetarily,
Mm-hmm.
and appreciate that regardless of what happens, no one can say anything that you tried, and you don't have to ultimately stick with it if it's not a good fit.
Wow, that was powerful. And I love that so much, because like no matter what the outcome is, you still have something to gain from this experience
Mm-hmm.
of just giving it a try and learning from the mistakes or whatever doesn't work out. So it's a win-win either way.
Yes,
Um,
100%. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and definitely go for it. There's nothing to lose, especially when we are still young in our 20s. Like I always say this to
Yeah.
people, this is the best time to go out there and make something happen, because we can
Mm-hmm.
always bounce back. The buffer zone
Yes,
is way
100.
bigger.
Yeah, it's so
So
big. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so just make it happen. And Brandon, how can listeners listening to this right now find you online? So if they want to get
Oh,
connected with you, they can find
mm-hmm.
you.
Yeah, certainly. So I just recommend that they add me on Facebook. So my name is Brennan Hopkins. I think it's pictured me at like a fall in the back or whatever. But yeah, just go ahead and connect. I'm always keen to get connected with other aspiring, freelancers, entrepreneurs, and happy to, within the time that I have, share, with them as well. So,
Awesome.
mhm.
Yeah, so definitely get connected with Brandon. He's super nice. And I would love to hear you guys, your thoughts on this interview. Let me know. Just, send me a message, reply back to this email, and then I would love to get to connect with you guys as well to talk about your own journey. So thank you, Brandon, again for coming on here. And thank
Oh
you
yeah.
everyone for listening.
Yeah. Thanks, Nika. Have a great day.
Yes.